Ball up!
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to Playing from the Tips, the preview and tipping show from Golf Australia magazine, covering the game's biggest events each week. I'm Rod Murray, sliding into the host's chair this week for an unwell Jimmy Emanuel, who we expect will be back on deck next week. As always, I'm joined by a panel of so-called experts, starting this week with the seemingly infallible Adrian Logue, who picked not one but two winners last week, both Victor Hoyland and Daniel Gale on his list. People are starting to ask questions, Logue.
What did that bring my total to, Rod?
I'm not sure. Jimmy's across that. I think it's 9.
I think it's 10.
It's 10. You've hit double digits.
Double figures.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've
been in a lot less of these
Here's
than
how we
everybody
know
else, I think.
that you're not ruling
right?
the system. Have you had any bets at all on any of the people that you've picked to win this year?
No, I don't gamble.
That's exactly right. That's extraordinary. I don't know how you do it. I don't think you know how you do it either, but we'll just go with the fact that you've done it, and good on you. Looking forward to what you've got to say this week. And making his first appearance on the pod, though surely not his last, it's the big man on campus here at Golf Australia magazine, editor Brendan James. BJ, tough school here. 9 or 10 wins for Logue this year.
First of all, point of order. BJ's been on the podcast before.
Playing from the tips?
Oh, yeah.
When were you on Playing from the Tips?
About 6 months ago.
I'm not convinced about that. But
in fact, I've done a couple.
I think so.
Making his third or fourth appearance on the podcast this week is the big man on campus, Golf Australia.
easily forgotten.
I've been on every episode. I don't remember you being on the episode with us.
Well,
lots happened this year.
Go back through the archive.
A lot's happened.
Everyone
this
else,
year.
How many through the archive.
How many wins have you had, BJ?
Get out of here.
I've had one, and I've only been on like twice.
I've done every episode. This is why I can't remember anything. I've also done other podcasts in between. Those two victories being the tally for the team this year to 20 wins, half of which belong to Logue, I'm sure you know. 145 top 10s, which you don't worry about, Logue. That's pretty impressive stuff. Before we come to this week, a quick look back. What stood out for you last week, Logue? You had so much going on.
Well, I knew Victor would get the job done.
It was clear even after 9 holes on Sunday. It was clear who was going to win.
But a remarkable final round there.
It's incredible, yeah.
Some interesting stuff from Scheffler, I thought.
Yeah.
It showed some signs of life on the green.
Really going after it with the driver. He was swinging off his feet.
Yeah. It seems like the more he leans into that swinging style of his, the better he hits the ball. Yeah. So that's impressive. And Matt Fitzpatrick putting in a good showing, I think.
Absolutely. And his brother too. Over it's good times in the Fitzpatrick family.
Yeah, from an Australian perspective, a little bit disappointed on Cam Davis. And Jason Day didn't do well either, but still limped into the tour.
Shea Knight caddies for Victor, so he's a great character, Victor. I think he's good for the game. Yep. The game's better when Victor Hovland's winning and at the top of the game. Beach, anything from you last week that stood out?
I think Daniel Gale's win up in Darwin. Coming back from doing Monday qualifiers in the States, and then his first hit out on the local tour gets the job done.
Yep. An unorthodox player.
It was
great.
Wire to wire.
Yep.
When he looked like he was in trouble and he drifted back into the pack, he managed to find something to get himself in front again, which I think that all those lessons learned from grinding it out week to week is really, going to add to the education of Daniel Gale. Again,
kudos to the TPS series. There's a guy who really developed over this past summer, Daniel Gale, had his nose in the frame constantly over those events, and that's got to help when it comes to trying to get across the line. So,
I mentioned this last week when I picked him.
Yeah, you did, of course you did. Yeah.
But I feel like he's on the trajectory of like a Dave Micheluzzi or Tim Powerhoran or something. He's like going to do really well on the money list in Australia this year and use that as a platform to get into Asia and Europe and America absolutely. Again. Yeah.
So good luck to him. And as I said, unorthodox player, good to watch, good personality. We're in good hands. For me, it was the US Amateur. I thought it was a real standout last week. I watched the half of the last semi-final, and about 3/4 or whatever you could watch of the final. And you got to love match play. It's just such an enthralling thing to watch it unfold. The result always isn't exciting, but the thing I find is, all right, enough about the past. Let's get to the future. We're going to kick off this week with the event that's going to hog the limelight, the PGA Tour season-ending Tour Championship Atlanta. For the rundown, we turn to the infallible Adrian Logue.
So the Tour Championship, tour all capitalised.
Not one word, though, is it? Like FedExCup?
Just a reminder for you, Rod, of how this works. Yeah. It utilises open quotation marks of the FedExCup starting strokes, quotation marks format, which rewards the top player in the FedExCup standings with a 2-shot advantage at the start of the tournament. And so the recipient of that 2-shot advantage this week will be Scotty Scheffler, who starts at 10 under par.
Yeah,
remarkable effort.
He's a double-digit handicap.
Yeah.
And then Victor Hovland comes in next at 8 under. And we've got Rory McIlroy at 7 under. John Rahm will be at 6 under. I'm not going to go down the whole list, but Lucas Glover is at 5 under, and then the rest are sort of 4 under through to even par.
Bottom 5 at 10 back to start. They're at even par?
That's correct, yes. So before I proceed any further, is there anything you'd like to comment on that format, the FedExCup, all one word, starting strokes format?
Am I alone in thinking it is absolutely absurd and has been from the time they came up with the notion? Seriously, what do you think? Do you think it's an interesting format that we should see more, or for the biggest check in golf every year, is this the right format?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Golf just doesn't lend itself to being. I'd like to see match play. Maybe you mentioned match play, but
$18 million for the winner this week.
Yeah,
tell me that's not a match made for match play.
Yeah,
and a proper tournament.
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
Golf doesn't lend itself very well to this, like. Getting a definitive winner, a season-long definitive winner. I think that's just an absurd concept.
Best player in the world changes week to week. The best player in the world Sunday afternoon was Victor Hovland.
Yeah,
best player in the world Sunday morning was Scotty Scheffler.
Lucas Glover's the best player in the world a couple of weeks ago.
That's exactly right.
It's an absurd concept, I think, to have a season-long winner, and so this sort of contrivance is perhaps the only way to get some semblance of it done, is to like give a massive advantage to the person who you think should do it. So.
I think the PGA Tour won't go down that road of match play. As much as I agree with your with your column yesterday, calling the Tour Championship stupid.
Well, it is stupid.
I agree, but they won't go down that road of match play because they go down their path currently because it's an admission that they don't have the depth to keep people interested over 4 days, which I think's sad when you're talking about the 30th ranked player not being interesting enough, to get Instagram views and clicks.
Yep.
I think that's a really sad indictment on the game, because otherwise, why wouldn't you have match play?
Yeah.
I mean, our great mate John Huggin always says the best stroke play events are the ones that come down to match play.
Yep. 2016 Open, Stenson and Mickelson.
The Jewel in the Sun.
Norman Faldo, 96 Masters.
Yeah. It all comes down to match play.
Funnily enough, I think that's what you'll get here, though, because you've got that separation. You're giving these, particularly the top three this week.
Handicap match play.
Yeah, that's right. Did Scheffler get a stroke on this?
I think giving Scheffler, Hovland and McIlroy this head start, I think almost guarantees that they're going to separate from the field. And this sort of spoilers for my conclusion about who is going to contend this week, but it's going to come from one of those three.
I mean, who do we know who the last number one ranked person going into the Tour Championship was that actually got the head start and went on to win it?
Was it Thomas? Maybe Justin Thomas? Or was he the last one before they went to this?
Guessing that was a question without notice.
That tells you everything you need to know about this. Everything. This doesn't work. Yeah. This is just it's
so unmemorable.
It's a spectator's mathematical nightmare. You're sitting there adding up and watching the strokes, and Steve Sands has got the algorithm. It's not golf. It's just madness. And the notion that professional golf doesn't like match play because TV doesn't like it. TV doesn't like it because you got 64 players and 60 of them people aren't interested in watching. With this format, you could do it. 3-day stroke play. The last two stands, you're almost guaranteed to get one of the high-profile players at least in the final. Yeah. Then you've got a match play for $80 million.
But whoever's in the top 30 is a great player.
This is my point about the whole...
Because they don't move the needle on social media. I mean, that's why that whole, let's give $10 million to Tiger who hasn't swung a club all year because he gets eyes on the PGA Tour, I think is, short of using an expletive, ridiculous.
The problem with this has no golf integrity. And that's a problem, I think, if you're a golf fan. There's no integrity to this competition.
Yeah, my memory of this every year is just like incredibly hyper green golf course and smiley faces and false sort of joy at
there was
all
the year
sorts of
that
stuff
had the
happening.
Brown bits around the bunkers.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they were the good years.
And 2 holes. Anyway, I'll get into my summary a little bit of some of the other storylines of the week. There's the top 6 US Ryder Cup spots have already been decided. But
Brooks Koepka, interesting one.
Yes, but the remaining 6 captain picks will come at the conclusion of the Tour Championship. Brooks Koepka's good call, Rod. I think that'll be interesting to see what happens, whether he gets one of those picks. Some other notables from the East Lake field that might be in contention for a pick there are Lucas Glover, which would be an amazing sort of
hell of a story.
Amazing story. Keegan Bradley, which would be a pretty amazing story in itself, and Ricky Fowler, which would be another amazing story. The course itself, East Lake, par 70, it's hosted the Tour Championship every year since 2005, and yet I can barely remember a single thing about it, apart from maybe the holes that finish both 9s. Like I know there's a par 3 that finishes.
It used to be the 18. I think
which used to be 18, then they flipped the 9s, and now it's the par 5 that finishes the tournament, and that's a reasonably memorable hole. It's got a creek through the middle of it.
Is it memorable because that's the hole where they
finish?
Yeah, and they had to replay it
nuts.
relentlessly in playoffs and stuff like that. So anyway.
Is this if you asked a child to draw a dog golf course, is this one of those?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it is a golf course-shaped golf course. It just is so bland and green and undifferentiated from everything else that we see on TV. So, yeah, that's East Lake. But famously, as we all know, it's the home of Bobby Jones. No doubt we'll hear about that this week.
Interminably.
At the end of this week, I think significantly, they've made some attempts over the years to improve it, including it got Reece Jonesed not so long ago. But then significantly after this event this week, Andrew Green is going to have a crack at it. They're going to close the course, tear it all up. And we saw what Green did at Oak Hill in the PGA Championship this year, and that could actually be...
Gives you some hope, doesn't it?
It does give you some hope.
Something a bit more interesting.
Some players, just onto some players. We mentioned Rory McIlroy is the defending champion, where he captured his 3rd FedEx Cup last year. He overcame, talking about this, the strokes thing, he overcame 10 shots behind Scheffler at one point in the tournament. So Scheffler really it was just a steady leak all week, and ended up finishing 1 shot behind Rory. Although a lot of those shots that Rory made up, of course, were fake shots. Jason Day's in the field is the only Australian. He's had a relatively poor performance in the first 2 playoffs, and I think he's done. I don't think we're going to get much out of Jason this week.
He's achieved what he needed to achieve this year already. He'd be looking to next year, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. So just looking at everything, I've done my modelling on this tournament.
Christ.
We've got a soft, lush course with thick, juicy rough and fast greens that rewards length and ball striking. You've got certain players who are suited to that sort of course, and among those players, some of them, the rub on that is that among those players, some of them are absolutely toasted. They're just not going to show up. Some of them are just glad to have gotten this far in the FedEx Cup and gotten all the rewards. Like getting into this field, I think means you're into all the majors.
Oh yeah,
I think you're into the Tour Championship next year, and there's all sorts of exemptions come from just making this 30-person
players,
field.
not the Tour Championship. You're into the players next year, I think.
Oh, okay.
The players.
No, sorry. I think the Tournament of Champions is what I was trying to say. You're in the Tournament of Champions.
Oh yes,
because they started padding the field out.
That's right. Yeah, not just
when they lost all the live players.
Yeah. But there'll be some people in the field who are motivated by weird things like the Ryder Cup. So, and Brian Harmon just seems like out to prove to everybody that he's
good Ryder Cup player too.
Really good player. But then there's others who just turn up to these playoffs and just want to win. They just greedy, want the $18 million, just want to win. And I think overlapping or everything intersects on those top 3 players still. given the course conditions and where they're at physically, mentally in the year, and what energy levels they've got left. I think we're still looking at Scheffler, Rory, Hovland, and there'd be no shame in picking any one of those ones. But I think it's just going to be, who finds a little slight edge over the other, and I think it's going to be Rory. So I'm picking Rory.
Beach?
I'm with you.
Rory.
With you. I can't see. I think his experience at Eastlake, defending champion, no one's won it twice in a row.
Yep.
But I think this will be, if he does get up, it'll be his third. Is that right?
Fourth, I think.
Fourth.
On three,
It'll be his
think.
fourth, yeah.
And he's in familiar territory. He's started from behind in the handicap system every time he's won. Yeah. So
that won't bother him.
It won't bother him whatsoever. I think he's a lock.
Yep. I was going to go with Rory, but I'm going to switch to Scheffler because surely mathematically he's got to win something at some point soon, doesn't he? If you'd given him 10 shots last week, even Hovland wouldn't have run him down.
Absolutely.
So
I just think he's got so much scar tissue from last year.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Who knows? Anyway, it will be interesting to watch in that sense if you can stop trying to do the mathematical calculations as you go, which I can't help myself. That's what I'll do. So, Tour Championship. It's the big one this week. Let's cross the pond now, BJ. We're going to head to the Czech Republic this week, one of the more exotic locations for golf for the DP World Tour. Tell us all about the D&D Czech Masters.
Yes, $2 million US $2 million event. So I don't know if you've noticed. I noticed this while researching the Czech Masters that the DP World Tour site now has all of its prize money listed in US dollars.
Really?
Yeah, that would be
with the exception. The one country holding out, Switzerland, which is
Krona.
No, it's
Swiss
still
francs.
Euro. European Masters, it's still listed as euros. But all the rest of the tournaments are in
US dollars. I wonder if that'll be to do with the alliance, I would imagine, just to keep things simple. It makes sense. I'm glad.
How to explain Switzerland?
Yeah.
No, how do you explain Switzerland? That's a general question. That's not a golf question. How do you explain Switzerland?
The problem child. So it's being played at the Albatross Golf Resort, which is just a resort course on the outskirts.
Great name, though. Who doesn't want to play the Albatross Resort?
Why don't they call it Double Eagle Resort?
Now.
So it's a pretty young course. It was only opened in 2009, but was ripped up within a few years and redone. So it was lengthened, and it's nearly 6,900 metres from the back.
Nice,
which is just outrageous. I mean, there's a couple of par fives that are over or close to 600 metres, which and the obligatory par three almost surrounded by water.
Yep.
But it is a course, certainly I think, that suits a certain type of player. Looking at the list of winners, you've got Thomas Pieters, the Belgian bomber who's won there twice, Johannes Veerman, Hayden Porteous, a South African, have won there. They all get the ball out there. So it's certainly a course that suits a bigger hitter. I think Max Kiefer, who is the defending champion, hasn't played for almost a month, and his best start recently best couple of starts recently, finished tied second in the European Open, tied third a few weeks after that at the BMW International, which means that he does pretty much his best work at home in Germany. This week, though, he just crossed the border. It's not that far across the border.
He'll probably drive.
He might drive.
Yeah.
Into the Czech Republic and defend his title. It's a funny event in that it always puts up a red flag for me that there might be some appearance money being.
Are you saying the quiet part out loud?
Yeah, might be some appearance money being paid for the former major winner that sort of comes out of the woodwork, or Ryder Cup star, and this week. No different. Padraig Harrington's there. Shane Lowry's there. Francesco Molinari's there, as is Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald.
Isn't it just capitalising on an opportunity, though, because the really big names have made the Tour Championship field, but that next tier of players, the Shane Lowry, who missed out on the Tour Championship, he's available. Why wouldn't you grab him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes perfect sense. So,
Absolutely.
Good on them.
Now, what I found interesting was that there's only 2 Aussies playing this week, Jason Scrivener and Blake Windred, whereas the other event that we'll talk about later, which is the Asian Tour event being played in St Andrews, there's a cast of thousands from Australia playing there.
Do you reckon that's to do with LIV and the pathway to LIV via the Asian Tour?
Well, I think that, yeah, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is a little bit more attractive than what's being offered on the European or DP World Tour. Which brings me to my tip, and I think I'd really like to see Alex Fitzpatrick kick on. You know, he's had a bit of a roller coaster ride since he's tied 17th at the Open, which was only just under a month ago. Since then he's won on the Challenge Tour down in the south of England, picked up a runners-up check last weekend in the Northern Ireland. In between that, missed a couple of cuts, but I think he's heading in the right direction.
Momentum.
And I don't think he'd be too far out of it in this type of golf course.
Fair enough.
He's quite a surprise packet, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like I just thought he was the brother in the crowd when the US Open victory, and it turns out it can actually play, and now he can really play.
Yeah,
it's good to see.
Actually, really like his swing. It's actually
totally different.
Much more conventional,
completely different.
Completely different person.
I suspect his is more natural.
Yeah,
it's come to him more naturally than what Matt's swing has.
He's got a bit of spark and personality, and good for the game.
Yeah.
Bloke.
I was having a conversation with a casual golf viewer during the week who said that their favourite player is Bob McIntyre.
Well, if that's not a path to victory, I don't know what is.
And
Robertson
is this
Crusoe
your
there.
system?
I'm going to lean into that and go with Bob McIntyre.
So this is your research system.
Yeah.
You come across non-golfers during the week who know a golfer's name, and
I've analysed it, and it seemed that there was a bit of symmetry in there. It was written in the stars.
Yeah,
it's Bob McIntyre's.
Good week to go well.
Yeah.
Would be a good week.
With Francesco's now been named an assistant.
Yeah, that's right.
Captain. You've got the captain of the Ryder Cup team there. I think Bob will.
You have to do a lot, but he's not out of it. McIntyre, if he has a good week this week, I think you'll go there. I'm going to go with Ludwig Bayberg just because he's exciting and it'd be a good story.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? And good on him for travelling over to Europe to have a crack. And he's a good player. He hits it long, he does all the stuff that you need. But he impressed in his starts on the PGA Tour, and who knows, he might be able to go on with it.
He might be actually playing in Europe in order to get enough events under his belt or something for Ryder Cup qualification. Could that be the case?
Too, yeah.
I
don't know if he's legitimately in the conversation, but
membership or something like that.
That would be a real baptism of fire, wouldn't it? 3 months of pro and you get thrown into the Ryder Cup.
Yeah,
won't happen.
I don't think it'll happen either for that reason. And Europe particularly.
I think Poulter's got more chance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll wonder. We'll go there. All right, let's head to some women's golf. We're going to rack up the air miles now. We're going to go back to North America, to Canada, for the CPKC Women's Open, Canadian Women's Open. It's one of the more prestigious events on the LPGA Tour. 9 of the world's top 10 in the field this week, only Charlie Hull sitting out. The host venue is Shaughnessy Golf and Country Club in Vancouver. They'll be pretty excited. They were supposed to host in 2020, but COVID did them in. When the tournament came back last year, they played it in Ottawa at Ottawa Hunt and Golf Club for some reason. So they've been waiting 3 years for this, so they'll be pretty excited about that, I'm sure, all the members. It's a very private, very exclusive club. No stranger to big-time golf. It's had 2 incarnations. The original course in 1911 was in one location. It moved in the 40s or 50s, I think. Bobby Jones played there, Snead. They've had a lot of high-profile players played at the old course. They've hosted 4 Canadian Opens, the most recent one in 2011. This is the first Women's Open it's hosted. So it's going to be a very Canadian week, I think. It'll be a real – because Canadian golf fans are hardcore golf. They only get 6 months of the year to enjoy the game. So when it comes to town, they really get behind it. So it'll be a really interesting and good fun tournament that way, I think. The course itself gets a lot of accolades from the players and the local. Look, it's spectacular. It's got too many trees is the truth of it. It's heavily tree-lined. It looks a lot like Sahali, where Brooke Henderson won the Women's PGA in 2016.
Foreshadowing?
Lydia. I kind of am. I'm going to tip Brooke Henderson because she's the best story. She also won this thing a couple of years ago. First Canadian woman to do it in 60-something years.
Yeah.
So you'd always back Brooke at home potentially. But the look of the course in particular, being so similar to Sahara, it's got those fir trees. They look like Christmas trees all around the place. It's a spectacular look. I don't think it's great for the golf. They are apparently, though, on a tree management program. A.V. McCann was the original designer. Not much of that left at the course, it would seem. Perhaps they're going to try and go back to. We're in a good era, I think, of clubs realising mistakes of the past and setting them right. You mentioned Andrew Green's going to do East Lake. We've seen Oak Hill done. Southern Hills, I think, was also in that. Gil Hands has done a whole bunch. There's a lot of really good clubs realising they've made some mistakes in the past and trying to set them back. So this might be on that list as well. Given all of that, you're going to be looking for someone who's an accurate hitter and an ability to shape the ball, because you're going to have some aerial hazards. There's going to be trees to go around and whatnot. The rough will be penal. Those who find it often will pay the price, assuming it's someone who's going to hit it straight. It's a completely different test for those who are making the trip from Northern Ireland last week, which was also a completely different test across Gulgorm Castle versus Castle Rock, which is like New South Wales to Concord over 4 days. It was pretty bizarre stuff.
I couldn't understand that. It was like there were two courses, 45 minutes apart.
45 minutes apart. It was bizarre. But really bizarre. And,
Anyway.
Golf Australia, don't get any ideas. We're not doing that here for the Australian Open because you're not going to get much press coverage. I agree that. In fact, last week I didn't think of it at the time. That really works against the format of the tournament and does it a real disservice. That spectators can't just wander. Like last year at the Australian Open was great. You could wander between the two courses pretty easily. Last week you couldn't wander between those two courses. It was just completely unfeasible. So
unless we don't know what the numbers are telling the organisers that people go to one course and they stay there, and whoever's playing that day, that's
so yeah. Look, maybe, but it doesn't feel like a. You'd ideally want them as close to each other as you can get. Anyway,
absolutely.
So this will be a very different test to that. Lydia Ko won this memorably in 2012, 2013 as a 15-year-old schoolgirl from Auckland. Like, consider that. 19 of the top 20 players in the world in the field that week. Came back the following year and defended. You'd have to like her chances. She also won it in 2015, though not at this golf course, obviously, but the tournament certainly has been kind to her. But I'm going to go with Brooke Henderson, Beach.
Good choice. Good choice, but I won't.
Good enough?
There's a lot riding on Brooke, to a lot of expectation as being I think leading the.
Are you not worried about BJ's mic technique?
No, he's going all right. He'll be all right.
Is that better?
These are good ones.
I think there's 10 Canadians perhaps in the field this week, and Henderson's like the one that's being held up as the one who's going to do the job. I don't think so. I think that's a lot to put on one person. I think the French woman, Céline Boutier.
Mm-hmm.
I think given the golf course, what sort of golf it demands of anyone in world golf, male or female at the moment, she's the one who's fine in the middle of the club head every single time.
This course will suit that. She's still got that going.
I think she's I think she's going to be hard to beat.
Just before we come to Logo, I forgot to mention the Australians in the field. Gabby Ruppel's got an invite, which is impressive, and she could do really well. She's on a bit of a tear at the moment. Minjee Lee, who I didn't realise has fallen out of the world's top 10.
Is that right?
She's now 11th.
Okay.
It has been a long time since she wasn't on the first page of the Rolex ranking website. Hannah, Steph Kiriakou, Grace Kim, Karis Davidson and Suo. Logue.
I think that formula of good ball strikers, very accurate. It's just the whole field.
It's kind of the LPGA, isn't it?
It's the LPGA these days. I like the chance. I think this player's been performing very well without being outstanding, and has something good coming. Is Nasa Hataoka.
Nice.
She's my pick.
Okay. Well, I was going to go with whoever you picked, and then Brooke Henderson is my second pick. So that's a given now from now on. Whatever Logue picks, and then we all get a second pick after that. All right. So that should be good. Just on the course, it's not my favourite sort of style of golf course, but it will look spectacular on television with those trees. The pictures of it are really quite amazing.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be
it's a beautiful
strip
landscape.
cut within an inch of its life.
It's probably going to have the diamond cut and all that sort of stuff. Be careful, I got complaints from a superintendent the last time I bagged that out.
I'm not bagging it.
He wrote in great detail what it takes to actually achieve that and make it look good. And it's like,
I'm just suggesting that that's what we're going to see.
Let's head to the last event on our calendar this week, the Asian Tour. Beach, the St Andrews Bay Championship. I know literally nothing about it except for who I've picked. Tell us about the St Andrews Bay Championship.
The St Andrews Bay Championship, it's the Asian Tours road trip. Continues. They head from International Series event in the north of England in Newcastle to the home of golf, St Andrews. And the Fairmont Hotel, which is just south of the centre of town, and its Torrance course, which designed by Sam Torrance, but I don't think he had that much to do with it, given that he famously or infamously apparently played there once and hit a drive over a hill and said, "What's over there?" Which, if you've designed it. Anyway. I actually played this golf course back in 2015 when the Open was down at the old course. And it's actually quite an interesting golf course. It's links-like. It's kind of similar in parts to Kings Barnes in that it does cover some pretty dramatic terrain in parts. But it's I guess for the tour pros, it's pretty easy. Just about every time the DP World Tour has visited there, I think maybe 3 times in the last couple of years, winning score's been 22, 23, 24 under. I think Adrian Otaegi won here in 2020, had middle rounds of 70, but bookended them with an opening 62 and a closing 63.
Nice.
29 birdies and an eagle for the week. So it's one of those golf courses that you can really have a go at, particularly if the conditions allow. Could be a birdie fest this week, especially with some of the star quality that have continued on the road trip, that are making their way up from Newcastle. Annabelle Lahiri, Matt Jones, Mito Pereira, going to be joined by the likes of Sergio Garcia, Harold Varner, all the live connected players, Paul Casey. So there's quite a bit of depth of talent this week. So I won't be surprised if the winning mark edges past 25 under. Again, obviously depending on the conditions. Aussies, as I mentioned before, there's an absolute
too many
past
lists.
1,000.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. But some interesting ones amongst them, apart from your live-connected guys like Jed Morgan, Travis Smythe, Wayne Ormsby, who've got that past experience of playing some live golf. Brendan Jones is turning it up this week.
Another European Tour event recently too, didn't he?
Long way to travel for one-off events like that. But
well, yeah, maybe he's tying in with a little break over there or something.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that could actually maybe not win, but certainly push his way into a top 10 or a top 15 and earn a decent check this week.
He gets going, he can smack out the birdies, BJ.
Absolutely. Todd Sinnott is another one. It's among the Aussies who's going to be turning it up, and he'll like the fact that there's some width about this golf course that'll be good for him. He'll be able to take the driver out a little bit more often, and if it's firm underfoot, he'll be wedging it in from all over the golf course. My tip this week, I think Paul Casey. I think he can get it done.
forgotten man
Yeah,
in
big
world
time.
golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Conditions won't be a concern, and he still ranks as one of. I've followed him a few times, probably not for the past couple of years, but you don't lose that ability to hit pure golf shots, and he's always had that. And he could actually, if he gets his nose in front, he could win this week by a few.
Good pick. I'm interested.
Interesting.
Loeb?
I think occasionally you've got to go for a bit of a roughie in these things, and another forgotten man in world golf who actually has done nothing to give me any indication that he's going to produce a performance, but sometimes that's what players do. Laurie Cantor is my pick.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to go with Dean Burmester. Same thing.
I went with him last week. He's done. I'm done with him.
I'm just trying to pick up the scraps here, like playing one off the ruck, picking up the loose ball. For the similar reasons to what you say about Sinnott. Wide golf course, he smashes it all over the place, hits it long, who knows, and he's one of those players. If he makes 5 birdies, he'll make 12. The problem with this sort of golf, I think, is if players who start making pars feel like they're going backwards and then they press, it's almost more difficult, this sort of golf, than a US Open where,
There's a true shootout, this.
It's just because it's relentless. Yeah. It starts on the first tee Thursday. If you par the first 4 holes, you look at the leaderboard, you go, I'm behind already, it's
which could bring some of the ex-PGA Tour players into it who are used to that.
Hudson Swafford.
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones, definitely, yeah. He's a guy who can make lots of birdies too.
He needs to. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see Matt Jones put in some good performance. He just hasn't shown a lot all year.
Well, that wraps up Playing from the Tips presented by Golf Australia magazine. You can keep up with all the action from the tournaments we've discussed today and plenty more at the Golf Australia website, golfaustralia.com.au. Also, make sure to grab a copy of the September issue with Jordan Spieth on the cover. Spring's here. It's time to blow the cobblers off your swing with more time on the course. Our team of teaching professionals have some fast fixes for the worst swing faults killing your scores. Also, Brendan James recalls 20 of golf's most costly rules blunders and also visits the Thompson and Walbridge designed Tura Beach. All that in the September issue of Golf Australia magazine. We'll be back next week with Jimmy Emanuel at the helm here on Playing from the Tips.